All right, good evening. I'm going to go around. Oh, I want to make sure this is all good to go. Looks like it's pretty solid. Difficult part about this is that I have to watch myself on a computer while the camera is going right there. A little bit more setup involved with doing YouTube lives than there is Instagram for sure. So let me go ahead and let me go into my own live. All right. Okay, there I am. Looks good. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Bent's Woodworking and More now. Bent's Woodworking and More live. Got some pretty good questions. Tonight, RW Woodworking, hello. I do have my my water for the evening, Michelob Ultra. So while we're waiting for people to go ahead and hop in here, looks like people are hopping in. Hopefully this time the live doesn't actually cut out. Last time, for some reason, it cut out like 30 or 45 minutes into it, and I had to start a whole nother one, which creates a huge issue because you've got to like get the live all set up back again, or set back up again, so just kind of a pain in the butt. But while I'm waiting on for some more people to go ahead and hop in, I'm going to try to bring this down just a little bit. I think that looks good. I do want to talk about how awesome my day was today. So a long time ago, a guy by the name of Josh Heron was writing me messages. We were just talking back and forth about, he was asking me some questions about the domino. And a bunch of time went by. We didn't really talk all that much. And then one day I was scrolling through my feed, and I follow him as well. Turns out he's an AMA sport bike racer, like a professional superbike racer, right? And so I realized that, like, I don't know, a couple of months ago now maybe. And I realized from one of his posts that he did yesterday that he was out doing like test laps here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I believe that's where they do the Indy 500. And it said Indianapolis. So I was like, oh man, this is awesome. He's here. Like, how great would it be for him, you know, for me to invite him over to the shop? So I invited him over to the shop. I was like, hey, if you want to stop by, I'd love to have you by. So here's the deal. He is a woodworker also, and that's why he follows my page, because he likes to do woodworking. And so he then responds with, would you like to come out and watch the races and hang out with the crew? And I'm like, absolutely. And so I used to ride quite a bit. I've owned 3 different bikes. I owned a Suzuki GSX-R 1000, and then I owned 2 Honda CBR 954 RRs. And I miss riding every day. And when he asked me that, I was like, yes, absolutely. So I got to go to the Motor Speedway, whatever it is, where they do the Indy 500. I got passes to go and hang out with his crew. It was just really, really, really cool. He ended up taking 5th place, which was really awesome. But it was just a fantastic experience, like totally spur of the moment. This happened last night at like midnight, we were talking. And then this morning he sent me a message at like 9 saying, hey, I'm going to know here in a little bit if I'm going to be able to get you in, because they didn't really open it up to outside people because of COVID and everything else. There were people there, but like there were certain requirements that they had to meet. Like I had to get my temperature taken, I had to wear a mask everywhere, obviously. But then he sent me a text. I was like filming the series for the floating nightstand that I'm doing. I'm building the second one. And I was in the middle, or I just got done cutting all the pieces for my drawer. And as soon as I got him off the table saw, he sent me a text and said, hey, you should be good to go. Go here, get your pass. And I immediately jumped in the car and went out there. And it was just a really, really awesome afternoon. Super, super cool guy. If you guys want to find out more, he's got a really big Instagram page, Josh Heron. But if you're into that kind of thing, definitely do that. And take a look at my stories over on Instagram. I posted some stories from while I was there today. So it was really, really, really exciting. So what am I working on currently? I just briefly talked about it. I'm doing the floating nightstand. So the issue with the camera, the way it's set up and like my audio equipment and stuff, it's kind of a pain in the butt to move the camera around, but yeah, I'm gonna show you. Let me show you real quick. It might be a little close, but I've kind of just got it sitting here right now. So I've got the box itself all done, mitered corners. The box is perfectly square. I did the miters on the router table with a 45-degree chamfer bit, and it's the best results I've ever had every time I use a router table. For small projects like this, it's great, but it's a waterfall effect, top, side, side. The bottom is not matched, but that's because it doesn't need to be. But really happy with it. And then this one I'm doing walnut drawers. The last one I did, for those of you that have been following over on Instagram, I did white oak drawers. So I'm gonna be doing walnut, and I'm actually gonna be making my own dominoes again. I had made my own dominoes and I did through dominoes. But this time I'm gonna be doing Babinga dominoes. So this is just like a cutting board I threw together. I didn't even finish it out of some scraps, some scrap walnut and some Babinga. And these are the only Babinga scraps I have. I have a gigantic chunk of Babinga, big 8/4 Babinga, but I don't want to cut a piece off just to make dominoes. So I'm actually just gonna rip this and use one of these pieces to make my own dominoes. And I'll do through dominoes in the side of these drawers. And so I just think it'll be a cool contrast, the red with the brown. The last one I did walnut through dominoes on the white oak sides, and it turned out really good. And I'll be starting to post about all that stuff here on Instagram very soon, next week actually. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm actually in the process of filming a instructional video series on this project. And this is kind of a test run for me. So I just published part 1 over on my Patreon page. Any patron that is over there on Patreon has access to this video because I'm trying to receive feedback on the video. You know, what did you like? What did you not like? What are some things I could do better? What do you wish I had in there? What do you not wish I had in there? Stuff like that, right? So I'm trying to get an idea of how I want to kind of categorize these things moving forward. I've already got a little bit of feedback, and I'm kind of sifting through that now and absorbing that, and I've already started editing part 2. Today I was filming part 3 until I got done. So part 3 is basically making the drawer, installing the undermount drawer slides, installing the drawer face, installing the back, French cleat, all of the stuff to get it ready for finish, and then part 4 will be finishing. So I haven't really decided yet exactly how I'm gonna put all this stuff out there. I would like for this to be my first instructional course, but I don't know if it will be the first instructional course. I may offer it up a different way, but I'm really just looking for feedback moving forward for future instructional courses. So for any of you guys that are wondering, that is absolutely what I want to shift my focus to, is more in-depth instructional content. Still putting this stuff out on YouTube, but the YouTube stuff will be a condensed version without as much explanation, unless it's like an explanation video telling you how to do something. So that's kind of how I am going. So I see some people are already starting to ask questions. That is great. Please keep those questions coming, because as soon as I get through the questions that I have, I will get into those. So let's go ahead and get started. I always start off by answering the questions from those that are over on Patreon first. And then I've got a couple other questions here that I've printed off, and then obviously all the questions that are coming in here on YouTube. So, all right, first question is from Brian Roberts. I'm looking to make a very similar assembly table. Can you go through the construction a little more, such as plywood framing under the top? Maybe bring in the camera close. Okay, so Brian, unfortunately I won't bring in the camera close during this. However, I'm more than happy to do this with you on the side, right? We can just do it one-on-one. I can send you some videos. So if you're over on Instagram, just shoot me a direct message there, and I'll send you back some video messages. But I will explain things the best that I can. So the framework for this, these Rockler stands, they're metal frames. And so they are designed in a way for you to put in pieces of plywood to build your own enclosed structure. There's multiple holes in it where you can use to attach it. The only thing, the construction of it is very similar to any other cabinet. I have a bottom panel and I have side panels. And then on the top, I don't necessarily have top panels because one, it wasn't necessary. And two, I was able to just put a stretcher basically across the top and hold anything steady from shifting because everything is attached to the frame itself. So, and then the frame is very rigid. The only difference is that you can kind of see it here, I think. This one? Yeah, you can see it. So this right here is, I want to say 2 inches, 2.5 inches. So you have to have something that fills up the gap. And so the bottom panels in all of these is just one sheet of ply. The side panels, I actually sandwiched together. I wanted melamine on the outside. So it's melamine, 1/2 inch ply, 3/4 inch ply. And what that did is that brought the sides of those cabinets out far enough to where I could install my full extension drawer slides to that wall, but they're not inhibited by this metal frame right here. So that's really the only consideration that you need to make. Well, I take that back. There is another consideration that you need to make, and that is the metal portion, the metal bar that goes across the top. Depending on how you set it up, obviously it can't inhibit the bolts that bolt everything together. So on the bottom of this, and again, like I said, please send me a message over on Instagram or even an email or something like that, and I'll kind of give you a much closer view. It's just hard to do it with the camera and this setup because of the audio equipment and everything that I have hooked up to it. So really, really straightforward. Build the frame, keep it loose, get your measurements, put the box in there, tighten up the frame, and you're good to go. And it's super rigid, super solid, and I have had absolutely no issues with it so far. Next one is from David Barton from Triple Crown Woodworks. I need to take a drink. He asks, did you try 3M Cubitron yet? I ordered every grit in 5 inch and only have 6 inch sanders. Once I get established at my new duty station, I'm gonna try again with the 6 inch. To answer your question, I only have the 5 inch. I ordered a sample pack and I got 120, 150, and 180. This is the paper he's talking about for those of you that are not familiar with it. 3M makes a paper, and Jonathan Katz-Moses is who turned me on to this, and he did a really interesting YouTube video comparing the differences between different sandpapers. And believe it or not, I would have never expected a video about sandpaper or sanding in general to be interesting. It's fantastic, and it is packed full with information. So I would definitely recommend, if you guys want to find more out about it, then to go take a look at that video. But I really like this sandpaper a lot. I'm a huge fan of the Festool Granat, which I thought I had some sitting here. I do. I want to show this stuff because I want people to understand that may not be familiar with it. So this is the typical Festool paper, Festool Granat. On the back, this is 120 grit. I've always really enjoyed their paper. I've used other papers and have never been a fan because they wear out very quickly and I do not get as good results. And I actually saw that again firsthand on the project that I'm doing now because I ran it through the drum sander. My drum sander is 100 grit. Well, I'm only sanding this up to 120 because I'm using Rubio. And so the problem with that is you go back over it with 120 to try to get out the lines, the straight lines that are created by the drum sander. Well, I use Tiger Shark abrasives, which is, I bought a bunch of that a long time ago, and it destroyed this wood. And I had to go back and drop it down to a lower grit with a better quality paper just to get rid of that stuff. I mean, it was a very drastic, noticeable difference. I did the Cubitron on one section, and I did the other technique I just talked about on another section. And if you put them right next to each other, the amount of scratches that was in the non-Cubitron was absolutely ludicrous. So I had to go back over all of it, with the Cubitron paper. And I actually believe, because I only have 100 grit, I don't have 100 grit of the Cubitron, I only have 100 grit of the Festool. So I went back and used this, and it looked exactly like the other two. The quality was just way better. My initial impression so far is that this lasts very long. This is 150 grit, and I've been using this. This is the only one I've used since I bought it. And I've used this the most, and it still feels, from what I can tell, exactly the same as when I put it on the first time. So I think it's really good paper. And his test, that's why I was so interested. I have no desire to move away from the Festool paper. It's always been great. But I was like, yeah, I can order a little, test pack. Costs like, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks. And it came with, 20 something sheets of sandpaper. It probably wasn't even that much. It was probably less than that. And I really like it. Really like it a lot. The other thing I really like about it too is it has the random hole pattern, which means I don't have to worry about lining anything up. So this is like super easy just to take on. And he didn't test it against Festool paper, but he did test it against every other major brand that's out there and everything that you find at the box store. And just watch the video, and it's incredible. He breaks it down by cost, like how long a sheet lasts versus the cost, and how the more expensive paper will actually cost you less in the long run. All this stuff, it's really interesting. So definitely go check that out. I don't have any 6-inch sanders yet. I should be getting the ETS EC 150/5 here in the shop soon. So I will be switching over to 6-inch for the majority of my stuff. And with that being said, I'm probably going to end up getting rid of my 5-inch Rotex and possibly go with the 6-inch, but I haven't decided yet. Alex Nolan. So the next two questions this one is specific. So since I'm also in Indiana, I was curious what kind of prices you were able to get at Hartzell. How much did you get of each walnut and white oak? And what were the board foot costs? Thanks. And I want to bring up another question that I got because it has something similar to do with it. Okay, no, it doesn't. Let's talk about Hartzell. So that's another announcement to make. So obviously lately I've been starting to align myself with companies that I've already been working with and that I want to continue to support, and they want to continue to support me. One of the companies that I was interested in developing a partnership with is a lumber company. Why? Because I am a woodworker, and having lumber readily available is great, especially when I'm building all of this stuff, and if I'm building something and going out and spending the money to build it, and the effort to make a YouTube video, if I can balance that cost. So I was approached by Hartzell Hardwoods, and I have partnered with Hartzell Hardwoods. So to answer your question, how much did you get of each? I got about 250 board feet of walnut, 4-quarter walnut, and I would say I got about 60 board feet of white oak, 4-quarter white oak. And what was the board foot cost? There was no board foot cost. I'm just going to be completely honest with everybody. I did not pay it. They provided that wood, i.e. we are partnered together moving forward. They are a sponsor of mine now. This wood will last me a very long time because I don't build client pieces. I just build stuff for the purposes of making videos or for our house. To go a little bit further on that, they don't have a board foot cost to consumers because they are not a retail location. And so what I mean by that is Hartzell is a global distributor of walnut, ash, oak, and what else did they have? Maple, maybe? No, hickory, I'm sorry. They are a distributor. So what that means is, you might have a lumber supplier in your area that is selling walnut. There is a chance that the walnut that they're selling you is from Hartzell. So hopefully that makes sense. So they do not have a retail location, and they do, but they do plan on having a retail location. Their facility is in Pica, Ohio. And when I was there and we were talking and I got to tour the facility, which was fantastic, their plan is to open a retail location. And eventually they would like to get to the point where they're able to ship goods to consumers. However, they're just not set up to do that yet. So the funny thing was, though, is when I got there, they had one of my YouTube videos up on the screen. And the YouTube video that they had on the screen was my walnut dining room table. And it was paused on a spot where I was at the miter saw. And it was a big 8/4 piece. And I got that lumber from Peach State Lumber in Kennesaw, Georgia. And on the end of it, it was painted blue. And he was like, oh, that table that you built was really beautiful. Where did you get your lumber from? And I had no idea about anything I'm about to tell you. And I said, oh, I got it at a local supplier. He said, yeah, which one? And I said, Peach State Lumber. They're a supplier in Kennesaw. They have a really great selection. For those of you that are in the Georgia area and are looking for a lumber supplier, check out Peach State Lumber. They have a huge selection. But turns out the wood that I was using from them is Hartzell walnut, which I just thought was really interesting because this whole time I have a dining room table with lumber that I got in Georgia that came from this company that eventually reached out to me and said, hey, we would like to partner with you and provide you with some materials to do more projects and help us get our name out there. I just thought that was really cool because I was like, how do you know that? And then he told me, well, it's the blue end. And so then I'm thinking, well, I would think anybody could paint it blue. He's like, well, they can. However, Peach State Lumber is one of the lumber suppliers that we supply our lumber or their walnut to them for resale. So the prices that they're selling the lumber for are obviously far less expensive than what the lumber yard is selling you, just like anything else in retail. So with all that being said, they're supposed to be sending me a list because I get asked constantly about, hey, there's no lumber in my area, right? And 9 times out of 10, I'll sit there and I'll talk back and forth with them. I'll say, hey, where are you at? And I'll do a couple keyword searches on Google, and sure enough, there's a lumber supplier within at least an hour of their area. Not all the time, but 9 times out of 10, it usually happens. So when they give me this list of retailers by state, when people ask me that question, I can say, well, hey, I know that this retailer is in this location and they actually carry Hartzell walnut or oak or whatever. But hopefully that answers your question. I think I got everything. So, since I'm also in India, I was curious about what kind of prices. Yeah, so even if I went there and was to try to buy this, I wouldn't have been able to because they're not a direct-to-consumer sale. So their board foot prices are for the companies. They're not for us. But I know that they're substantially less expensive than what we are paying, obviously. All right, Gary Furness, next question. Hi, Jason. When you go to a timber yard and you know that you're going there for one thing, then see something else, do you get thoughts of how that would be nice for a whatever and then buy it as well? Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I would go into the lumber supplier that I use primarily in Georgia, which was Sewanee Lumber. And I would be going there for walnut, or I'd be going there for ash or whatever, maple, poplar. They had a great selection. And then I'd go over to the other side where they had like the mahogany and the curly maple and the sapele and all this other stuff. And I'm like, man, it'd be really cool. That's a really nice board. Look at all the curl in that. And then I would end up buying it and it would sit in my shop forever because 2 things. 1, it looked so nice, I didn't want to touch it. And 2, I thought when I saw it, I'm like, that would make this something really cool. It's just, I had never had any idea. So if you're doing that, I would say it's pretty normal. I feel like everybody does. But it's pretty fun to go into a lumber place and like look at all this stuff and that you just start having all these different ideas of what you'd like to do. I find I am pretty vanilla now when it comes to woodworking stuff. Like our house, the majority of the things that I've built for the house are walnut, and the majority of the things that I'm building moving forward are going to be walnut. And I just like it, so like I really like white oak too, especially when you put a finish on it and it darkens it up a little bit. So we'll see. I don't really dabble a lot in other woods. I do like babinga, but it's $20 a board foot in most places or more. I'm not going to pay that unless I have something really crazy planned. I think it's better for like small accent pieces. I do like mahogany, and I do like sapele, and I do like any of that species. I'm sorry, my watch is going nuts right now, giving me notifications. Anyways, so that's kind of, I stick to the woods that I know and I really like to work with and I'm familiar with. Blake from Hughes Woodworking. I hope I'm saying that right, Blake. What is your biggest driving factor on being a content creator / teaching versus building projects for clients? I enjoy it more. I like to teach. I like to build relationships. I like to help people. I did enjoy doing custom work. The thing I enjoyed most about custom work is the interaction with the client 99% of the time. There were a few times where it was a little annoying, but I don't know. I busted my butt. I built what I needed to build, and I made a decent profit, and I put all of that money back into my shop, and I created a place where I felt comfortable with. And I finally just said, I don't need as much money. I was making way more money doing client work than I do now. That's changing, obviously, but I get so much more fulfillment out of helping other people, doing stuff like this, getting nice messages from people, having people say, you know, oh my gosh, I can't believe how helpful your video was, and it made me do this. They send me pictures of stuff that they built, and it just reminds me of what it was like to be at that stage, you know, just starting, and having those feelings, and like wishing that somebody out there would be, you know, willing to help and willing to answer questions. Like I still get surprised, and this is like a motivating factor for me. I still get surprised that people thank me for responding to their messages. And to take it even one step further, the majority of the time that I respond to people's messages, I respond with a video message. And so that just throws people for a huge loop. And it always blows my mind when they're like, first of all, not only am I excited that you responded, but the fact that you took the time to send a video message or a link or whatever, that's the kind of stuff that it really drives me to do this. It does get a little overbearing at times, but it's completely self-imposed. Like this is the reality of my life now. And the way I look at it is I don't understand why people get into this field if they're not willing to help the people that they're trying to make the stuff for. I know that money is a big driving factor for all of that, but for me, while yes, the money is important eventually, it's not the top driving factor for me now. I don't need whatever income that I'm earning from this to pay for my mortgage because the military does. And so that makes it a little bit easier for me, but that's why I started all this early, so by the time I retire, it's already established and I'm able to do what I love on a daily basis, and I am making enough money to support my family because then that money from the military will go away, minus, of course, the retirement and all that stuff, which can't get here soon enough, 2.5 more years. So good question. One thing to add to that, one thing that I got tired of with client builds is building the same thing for the 10th time that I didn't want to build, or that's a style I don't like, or that was just for a paycheck, or it gets old. You know, you get to a point in time, like I still have so many things that I want to do with the tools that I have in my shop and learn how to use them, you know, even better than I've already, you know, learned how to use them and really try stuff out. And I'm just interested in doing that and not like, okay, I can't do that right now because I have to get this table done. With the content creation piece too, another thing for you to consider, if you're building the same thing for the 15th time, it's probably a little bit more challenging for you to create interesting content. And if you're trying to grow an audience, content is king. If you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over, you're not going to have great results. You might have videos that do well and you might build an audience and all that other stuff, but it's not going to be, I need to take this watch off. I apologize. I probably shouldn't have it synced to my phone. So let's put that over there. Actually, let's put it somewhere where I'm not going to hear it buzz. like on that towel. All right, no more distractions. It's throwing me off. Okay, more questions. Once I get through these, I will get into the YouTube questions in the question comment box. First one is from Boardroom Craftsman. Do you plan to get a bigger shop after this final mission? As much as I would like to say no, yes. The goal is that, you know, we're putting a lot more emphasis on the home, which is kind of why I switched to Ben's Woodworking and more, because I do have a lot of home projects that are not directly related to woodworking, but the woodworking that I need to do for the home, the things that have to happen before that will lead into it. And so I think it's a really good opportunity for me to feature some other things in the way that I like to teach. So we're focused on that because I don't have to move in 2.5 years if I don't want to. The goal would be for us to stay here for at least 5 years. I'll already be out of the Army then, about 1.5 years out of the Army, 1.5 years, 2 years. We'll determine if we want to stay in this area, if we want to move a little bit further north of Indianapolis, which is probably what we would do. But yeah, I would obviously love to have another structure. I don't need a bunch more space, but it would be nice to obviously have a detached building that maybe had a bathroom in it and some other stuff. But it has nothing to do with, like, I'm not happy with the layout. I love the shop. It suits my needs. The only problem that I'm running into now is, you know, trying to roll my camera stand over anti-fatigue mats. So I've actually eliminated a lot of the anti-fatigue mats in my shop. But for the most part, no, it's great. But obviously, like, this is not my retirement home, and I'm not going to say that it is. We love it. We like the area. We love the neighborhood. But obviously, we'd like to do something a little bit different later on in the future. The great thing about it is that this is the first time in 17.5 years that I don't have to move if I don't want to. Max Worthman, can you use the parallel guides with the LR32 system to set up for shelf pins and drawer slides? And until you asked that question, I never really thought of that before. I would say the answer is yes, as long as you don't move that parallel guide and you have it in the same spot. The biggest benefit to the LR32 system is the locating and indexing pins or bars that go underneath it for the purposes of a balanced panel. So you don't need any kind of squaring device or anything like that. You just use that on a balanced panel and it will automatically place your holes where they need to go. If you were using a square of some sort, whether it's the parallel guides for the LR32, if you get that set up to where they're in a spot where they're both pinching that board, I don't see why you couldn't, but the holes may not line up from the top or from the bottom in that 32 millimeter increment, if that makes sense. But I don't see why you couldn't do it. I no longer have the Festool guide rails because I have other track squares that I prefer using over those. But the other benefit to that too is if you were to be able to figure out the measurements, you could actually set the stop and have the stop reference where the holes were actually going to be drilled. If you were able to come up with something like that, I think it'd actually be very beneficial. If you haven't watched my video on using the LR32, check it out, because Peter Millard from 10 Minute Workshop over in the UK, he made these cool little jigs and I made a set, and I don't even use the indexing stops that come with the LR32 anymore. But if you want to find out more information about that, definitely go check out the video. JMD Woodworks. Your most liked and most hated thing about commission work. I actually kind of already talked about this. Most liked was seeing the client's reaction when I delivered a piece of furniture. Most hated thing about commission work is the two things: the uncertainty of the client in most cases, and building the same thing over and over again because it's a style and it's a trend. Those are the things. And I did a lot of farmhouse style stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. At one point in time, I actually liked that style and I've just moved away from it. I'm just not a big fan of it anymore, but I would build the same table multiple times. And every time you do it, it just gets a little bit less enjoyable unless it's that same table and it's out of walnut. Hughes Woodworking, okay, I already answered that one, so I only got 2 more, and then I'm gonna get into YouTube. Donnie Weisenbaker. Are you still loving your Harvey dust collector? Yes, I am. I have had this question more than any other question, minus maybe Festool related stuff, ever since being on Instagram or YouTube. And mostly it comes from Instagram because that's where it's been seen the most. Every single day, somebody is asking me about it because there is nobody else that's posting. Well, there are a few people now because they bought them, but there's no one else posting about it. Let me put it to you like this. I do not have any regrets with putting this machine in my shop. Is it perfect? Does it collect is my shop dust free? No, but it has the least amount of dust that it ever has. Are there certain features about it that I'm not the biggest fan of? Yeah, there's one, and that's kind of self-imposed too because of the way that I have my shop set up. I didn't really plan for it. I'm going to be doing a video, I've had it for almost 6 months now. So next month, I think, is when you can expect I should be doing like a 6-month review. And to be clear, like Harvey is a sponsor of Ben's Woodworking now. They're not sponsoring that video, but I really liked my experience with this, and we came up to an agreement, and they now support what I do. And I'm super happy to be a part of the team, but the ports on the side, right? So it goes into the system, it circles around inside of the system above the bins, and the way it's designed is the first bin is larger and the second bin is smaller. And the way it's supposed to work is that the larger particles fall in the big bin, the finer dust falls in the second bin, and then anything that makes it past that goes into the filters where it gets stopped. And then you pleat the filters, there's 2 of them, and then that stuff drops down into the bottom, and you can take the dust collection unit, put the hose on the end of it, turn on the machine, pleat the filters, and it will suck everything through there and filter it back into the machine and then put it into the bags. It works great. It does what it's supposed to do. As the bags start to get fairly full, or full really, and I should be emptying them at this point, those filters will get more of the fine dust that get in there because there doesn't have as much of a place for it to fall. And so you just got to clean it out. The problem with mine is since I have it hooked up to hard piping, which it's okay, it's very easy for me to disconnect because I went with the Nordfab. I can literally walk over there right now and in 2 seconds, I can access the inlet of the machine because it just unclips. Nothing is sealed, it's sealed by spring tension clamps. But I don't have a hose yet that I've cut out that I can hook up from there to run around. So I have to go to the other side of my shop, get my blue Rockler hose, pull it all the way over to the other side and get down there on my hands and knees and hook it up when I do clean it out. So basically the way I do it now, I've had to empty my bags 3 times. And to be fair, I have not been doing a ton of milling until recently. But I've emptied the bag 3 times. And now each time I do that, I neglected the filters for a while and they got backed up because I let the bags get too full. So now every time I empty the bags, I pleat the filters and I run the cycle. Takes a couple of minutes at most. I get down there, I unscrew one, hook the hose on, turn on the machine, sucks everything out, pleat the filters, and I'll talk about all this in the video. So I would say that that's something that I'm not used to, but I'm getting used to. And I've already learned from making the mistake the first time of not paying attention to that. But with that being said, it's not a regret. Like, I have 0 regrets. It works great. It does a fantastic job. It really does separate the larger stuff from the finer stuff. It's pretty remarkable. And the noise, it's so much quieter than my last machine. The suction that I'm getting on it is great. So 0 regrets. I absolutely love it. And I've told quite a few people, they've asked me their opinion, like, would you buy it again? The answer is yes, I absolutely would. Unless I was, I needed a ton more power, or if I was milling, 100 board feet or 50 to 60 board feet of lumber every day in my shop, it would probably get irritating having to empty the bags so often. But on the flip side of that is before I had a 55-gallon drum, this is now 32 gallons capacity total split between 2 bags. Changing the bags out on these is as easy as me opening it up, I slide it out, I pull the bag out, I dump it into another trash bag, put the bag back in, same thing with the other bag, and then I push the container back in the machine. It is so much easier. I just have to do it more often. Shuttleworth 125, if you did, this is a great question. If you did a TED Talk, what would your subject be? Doesn't have to be woodworking. And I thought about this for a little while, and I think if I was to do a TED Talk, I would talk about similar to what I talked about at WorkbenchCon, which is not being afraid to make mistakes and that you should welcome making mistakes and why mistakes can be so beneficial to your growth overall. That's probably what I would do. That's something I really enjoy talking about, and I feel very passionate and I'm very firm in my opinion on that. I welcome mistakes, and mistakes are great because they are the best learning experiences that you're going to have. And so it's just something that I would feel comfortable. That, or maybe just share some of my stuff in social media. But I'm not an expert on anything, so that's a hard question to answer. I just like to talk to people, if you haven't noticed. All right, so let's go start going through some of the stuff. There's not a lot here on YouTube, so we may be getting close to being done. What time is it? 7:38. Yeah. So if you guys have questions here on YouTube, I already did all the pre-written in ones, so please put them on here and I will address them. Jeff Angus, hello. Jason from Cumberland, Rhode Island, hello. Kevin McTeague, cheers. James Glover, hello. This is Toolman 316, hello. Oh, Billy, hi. Hello. Chris Manny, I like how you called Michelob Ultra water. I always call it chicken marinade. That's interesting. It's basically water. The IPAs don't agree with me as much anymore. Tate Austin Design, what's going on? Ashley, Woodworking Whiskers, hello. Chris Matty, I had a Yamaha TTR 225, just a nice day riding the trail bike. I miss riding so much. Had the same in a 4-stroke. I've got a 1978 Honda Trail 90. It's a wimp, but fun, for sure. Mine was 4 with electric start. Ashley, it's not melamine, so it's good. That's right. I'm back to my roots, using the walnut and then putting Rubio all over it. Oh, God, I love Rubio. It's such an easy finish, and it looks fantastic. Hello from Mexico. Hello. Why not white oak dominoes for the walnut drawer? I did think about that, and you know what? Well, now you're going to spoil my fun, because I already have this nice Babinga, and I do think that the Babinga does look cool with the walnut, especially when you put a finish on it, because it darkens this up and it darkens that up. But I do have a lot of already pre-made walnut scraps, and making your own dominoes is really easy, especially if you have a drum sander, because you can like dial in the thickness to a T, and then just do a quick 1/8 inch round over. And man, they fit in there perfectly. And I just cut them all at the bandsaw, cut them into little pieces, and it was great. So I don't know, I'll test it out. I'll see which one looks better. Maybe I'll do a poll on Instagram. Doctor made it. 11 Charlie is better than 11 Bravo. That's definitely not true, and you know it. Chris Matty, for us poor folk, is there a good alternative to the domino? Yeah, you could do it with a router. And make your own dominoes, but it's more challenging, obviously, but it can absolutely 100% be done. You do not need the machine to do what the machine does. Dowels, people were building things for many, many, many years with dowels, but again, it's just not, you can do similar things with other tools. The tool is going to make it more efficient and faster. So I would say dowels, make your own dominoes, use a router. to cut your own mortises, make your own tenons, being the dominoes. If you're using it just for alignment purposes, biscuits, you could use that if that's your bigger struggle. Or you could hand cut joinery, and you could do a traditional mortise and tenon. You don't need the machine, right? I want to make that very clear. You don't need it. It's just very nice to have. But a dowels would probably be a very cost-effective way for you to do it. Let's see. You know, you're like Ash just saying. Tommy, oh, did I just skip that? Yeah. Chat lane, hey Jason, it's Tommy from TWC Designs, new woodworker. I'm having trouble finishing my river tables with Osmo. What finish do you use? The buffing is not coming out just right. Okay, so a couple of things. One, I don't do river tables. Two, I've never used Osmo. There is a guy on Instagram, if you're on Instagram, Tommy Mullaney, and he's a huge Festool nut, much like I am, but he just posted a really interesting river table or river top or something that he did, or whatever we're supposed to call those tables, because apparently it's copyright infringement or trademark, whatever. The wooden tables with epoxy. But he used a polishing system from Festool, and not saying you have to use Festool, but he goes through this polish thing. I think he actually did a YouTube video on it. But holy cow, did this thing come out. It looked like glass. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I've never done anything like that, never used Osmo. I know plenty of people that have put Rubio. I have no idea what you're supposed to sand epoxy up to get that clear finish. I don't know what the difference between the wood and the stuff is. I know that Rubio will openly tell you that it is not designed for epoxy. So I'm really not the best person to answer, but check out his video, because polishing that top, holy cow, I was really impressed. I was like, that looks amazing. It didn't look like epoxy. It looked like he had chunks of glass that are connected to wood. It's pretty remarkable. Al Amantia. I am always so terrible, Al, at saying your last name. I get so confused. Hey Jason, shop looks great with that silver play button. Thank you. Yes, this happened since my last live, and it's now in the background. Super cool. I know it's silly. It's just a play button that has my name on it. But it's exciting to me, because I thought that might happen by the time I retired, and then here I am, right? So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to hit a goal like that so much faster than I expected. Jack Flash, if I were to make a life-size llama out of wood, which wood type would you recommend and why? I have no idea how to answer that. Walnut. Absolutely walnut. Best $20 or under tool that everyone should own that isn't common. Hold on. I'm going to get it. I don't know if it's less than $20. It's very, very close. If it's not less than $20, it's very close. Matter of fact, I'll show you two options. And most people that are watching me right now probably know exactly what I'm going to recommend. Okay, here's the first one. This is the Incra Tiny T. Right here. It will give you increments all the way down to 64th, 16th, 30 seconds, 64th. It's incredible. For the longest time, they actually just released a metric version of this. So for those of you that have this, that are converting to metric, check it out. It's less than 20 bucks. I already ordered one. It's in my apron now. This is the Imperial version. Ooh, something else. Hold on, let me make an announcement before I tell you the next one. I'm gonna give this away, US only, to one random person tonight in this live before I get off, and it's this. The Craig little jig to do cabinet hardware. I bought this just to make a YouTube video featuring this along with other options because this was an affordable, it's like 30 bucks. I will send it to whoever wins as long as you agree to pay for the shipping, right? So somebody, it's brand new. I used it for the video and that's it. I don't need it. So anyways, good thing you asked that question because that reminded me. All right, the other thing that I want to recommend would be this. And this is the Polini Pocket Rule. This is the stainless steel one. And this is the one that I said might be like $25, maybe. It's not real expensive, I know that. This is now my most used measuring device in my shop, hands down. I use it for everything. Every line, marking gauges, checking height of bits, the blade, literally every single, there's not a day that goes by I do not use this. It is the most handy measuring device that I've ever owned, and I love it. It's just fantastic. And it's small, fits in your pocket. Those are my 2 suggestions. All right, going back to this before I answer more questions. How am I gonna do this? If somebody can tell me, maybe I should just do guess a number. And only guess a number if you meet the criteria. US, unless you want to pay for shipping overseas, but which is not worth it for this. US, and will pay for shipping. Answer, what is, or just guess a number between 1 and 100, right? Do the number, whoever's closest, I will pick, and I'll get with you after this, or you can send me a message and I'll send this to you in the mail. Okay, now I'm gonna get bombarded with numbers. All right, Gary Badger, which guide rails did you go with? So I have all of the sets of guide rails. I haven't gone with any of them yet. I'm using, Seneca sent me theirs a long time ago. I've used them for a very long time. Woodpeckers was nice enough. I told them I wanted to make a video comparing the different ones. So they sent me a set of theirs. I've used those on my last project. And then I just got these, which TSO Products is actually a company that I've used in my shop for quite a while, and will be working with them moving forward in some capacity. But I got these, the TSO ones. And so I want to mess with these a little bit more. And then I'm going to do a comparison, comparing the 3. I'm not going to put the Festool ones into that video. 2 reasons. 1, I don't have them anymore. And 2, those are so specific to that line. These are a little bit more interchangeable. So, but it's a very common question that I get. Same thing with the guide rail squares. So I've got this one. I've got the Woodpeckers one. I've got the TSO. And I might have another one soon, and then I'll do a video comparing the features to all those so you guys can see, just because I get asked so many questions about that stuff. If I had to pick one so far to answer your question, it would be these, and for multiple reasons, which I'll save for the video, but one of my favorite features of these are the flip stops, because they are super, super awesome. And it's really cool because these are spring-loaded, these knobs. So if I push down on the thing, it slides super easy back and forth. You don't have to do that, but it's like this locking mechanism. And that's something I really like a lot. Like, I was really impressed. And you don't need any tools to change anything out on this, minus attaching them to the rail, which is the same with pretty much all of them. You need some sort of hex drive or something like that. Anyway. Will you be doing air quality checks using a Glueless or similar when you do your review of the Harvey? No, probably not. I'd like to get a Glueless, but I don't have anything to compare it to. So, like, I couldn't tell you the air quality in my previous shop versus this one. I also very often still blow my shop out with a with a blower. I sweep my shop regularly. I would be interested to see what the difference is. I guess I need to start collecting some data. I also don't have an air filtration unit in this shop yet. I've thrown around the idea of making one like Jay Bates did that moves a lot more air. But it's hard to have something like that running when you're trying to film because you always hear this buzz in the background. I know he gets really minuscule readings in his shop, but no, it will not be in the video for the biggest reason is that I just don't have a Dylos meter. See, I got dust flying around right now. SL Custom Carpentry. What? All I drink is Ultra. Oh man, oh look at all those numbers. Holy cow, we got a lot of questions now. Is the Festool bander really worth it? Yes, 100%. Yes, yes, yes. If you do a lot of edge banding, 100%, yes, it is totally worth it. If you edge band like 1 or 2 projects every once in a while, probably not. Right for the price tag, no. But even when I only have one piece that I have to edge band, I use that machine now. It is fantastic. I love it, and I love the router and being able to get a perfectly trim, perfectly flush trim. It's awesome. It's so much fun to use. It's probably my favorite. It's the most enjoyable tool for me to use in my shop now. And I want to take a break from doing any edge banding for quite a while. But like when I redo the kitchen, if we decide to do hardwood edge banding and I don't do face frame, I do European style cabinets, oh yeah, I'll be using the crap out of it. Matter of fact, I bought 350 feet of maple edge banding just in case I do that. Or I have some other projects, built-in projects for like pantries and stuff like that I'll need it. But if you do a lot of edge banding, spend the money and you will really like it. Hello from Long Island. Hello. Doug Gummier. Hey Jason, how do you like the Nordfab ducting cost versus performance, sound of the ducting, various types? I would never run this. I would never run non-metal duct like this in a shop moving forward ever again. I will always spend the money. My layout cost me $2,000 for the small amount of ductwork that I have, and I would gladly spend it again, and I would gladly spend more. Like, it is such a remarkable difference, and the ease of use to install and the ease of use to disassemble or change makes it worth every penny. There is no static buildup. It is extremely quiet. There is no rattling. It's very easy to change. The blast gates, everything about it is just sturdy. It's really nice. So yes, it is worth it. I think, in my honest opinion, I believe that the ductwork is just as important, if not more important, than the actual dust collector itself. Because take a really powerful, great dust collector and put crappy ductwork on it. Not saying that PVC is crappy, but it's not. Just say you don't take the time to seal it like I didn't in my last shop. You're not going to get the performance. I have a 2 horsepower unit that gives me better performance than with this ductwork than my 3 horsepower Cyclone unit did with poor ductwork. Way better, way more suction, noticeable difference, and it's drastically quieter. Not just because of the ductwork, that's because of the machine itself. Chad Hibbs, why don't you use your drum sander more? I've actually started to use it a little bit more lately because I'm doing a lot more thin pieces and I'm finding uses for it. My biggest complaint about the drum sander, the other day I had an issue where I had 2 brand new rolls of paper both times. Put the 3rd roll on exactly the same way I put the other 2 rolls on, and it has been working just fine. So I don't know what the problem was there. That kind of upset me. I also hate the lines that it leaves. I cannot stand it. No matter how light of a pass, it irritates my soul. And I know that that's part of it, but in my opinion, it doesn't save me any time on sanding. I thought originally it did, but when you have something where, if you're painting it, who cares, right? A quick sand to smooth everything out, and you paint it. It's great for that. Face frames, cabinet doors, fantastic. That's why I bought it. But I was painting those. This, where I'm putting a finish on it, and I don't want that stuff to be visible, doesn't save me any time. It just allows me to really sneak up and get the proper thickness and ensure my piece is flat. So I am trying to find more reasons to use it, but it's a love-hate relationship for sure. I could definitely do without it. What's a good source to purchase hardwood for cutting boards? Local lumber supplier. If you have one, in your area. If you don't, they have Rockler, Woodcraft, those places, they do sell smaller pieces. Just understand that you are going to pay astronomically high prices for it. Sometimes you'll get deals when they have like their cutoff bin and you can get stuff really cheap. Also find a furniture manufacturing place in your area or a woodworker who has a bunch of scraps and see if you can get in on their scraps. I know in my case, when I have scraps, I'm happy to give it away because I don't want to pay for somebody to get rid of it and I don't want to move all of it. So just start searching around in your area. I'm sure you'll find something. Why don't you use a drum sander? Thanks. Misfit74, hello Jason, thanks for the stream. You're welcome. Rockler's dowel jig is pretty great. Alex Nolan, hello Alex. Any issues with the new LED lights? Not at all. Not even a little bit. I absolutely love them. Philip Morley, Tados and Philip Morley mortising jig uses a router to make loose tendons, poor man's domino. Interesting. I actually just listened to a podcast that he was on a couple hours ago. Shop Sounds podcast. Oh, speaking of that, I was on another podcast recently. So if any of you guys are interested in podcasts, search Go Build Something. It's my three friends, Jesse, and Brandon. They all have pretty big accounts over on Instagram, great guys, and they asked me to be their first guest on the podcast, and it ran for about an hour and 45 minutes. And if you're interested, we talked a little bit about shop stuff, the new layout that I have in my shop, how I'm liking it. But we really dove deep on the social media side of it and the business, the sponsors, the battling negativity in social media. Talked a little bit about barbecue at the end because they like to talk about barbecue, and I'm interested in finally investing in a really good grill. But if you guys want to check that out, Go Build Something podcast. It's on all big podcast forums. I think it was a really good discussion. And I really, really enjoyed being on there. So a big thanks to those guys. I love doing podcasts. Man, it keeps jumping for some reason. Okay, Blacktail Studios is that guy. Is the guy for that. River Table Epoxy guy. Alex Nolan was also going to stand for Blacktail on river tables. Man, I just had like 30-something people drop out of this thing. There was over 100 people in here a minute ago. Ron H., this is the first live of yours I have seen, Jason. I will have to check more of them out. So the good news is that they are now on my regular YouTube channel here. You can either see it as like recent videos, or I think I have a playlist in there that says, most recent live streams. There's 3 of them on there so far. This will be 4. But this one won't be uploaded till tomorrow because it takes forever when you're doing it from the phone. Manor Wood on YouTube for river tables. Tiny T, yes, Misfit74. Incra Tiny T. Thanks for the response on the $20 tool. The llama question may have been a joke. Grand pianos are 12,000 grit. Oh, geez. These days, I don't ever go past 180. Ever. Well, every once in a while, 320, but since I use Rubio so much now. Won't be $20 in Australia, but metric. You should give, you should try True Position. Yeah, so True Position is a company I work with, actually. That's why I did a video for them talking about their jig. But I did a video showing 4 different ways, from the cheapest way of just using a measuring device. It's my latest YouTube video. Just using a tape measure and your pen and marking your hole locations, to making your own jig for repeatability, to spending a little bit of money and getting something like this, and then finalizing it with the True Position that gives you the most robust features of all of them, but obviously at a much higher cost. So very, very familiar with the True Position. normally I would think like, okay, I'll keep this if I only have to do one. Even if I'm only doing one, I still grab the true position because I know how easy it is to set up and I know how accurate it is. Yeah, so I don't need this. So one of you guys is gonna get this. And if they're not in here right now, they're not gonna win, right? Because I had a lot of people in there. I think it was for the giveaway, and then I keep running my mouth and they're like, screw that. What is the most used tool in your shop? I know where you're going with that, Patrick. It's my apron. All honesty, it is. But in something in my apron, that. Tape measure, that. Pen. Okay, all right, here we go. Lots of numbers. Holy cow, and then lots of questions. So let me look at the numbers real quick, guys. Let's see if nobody got the number I had in my head. Nobody got it. Let's see who's closest. It looks like Jamie Chrisman. Jamie Chrisman. Oh, hold on, let me verify. Jamie Chrisman. Okay, yep, you were the closest. My number that I had in my head was 16. You guessed 17. So, Jamie, if you are still here, please let me know in the comments. And if you are still here, actually, let me know if you're still here, because if you're not, then I'm going to the next person. I'm going to pick another random number. Oh, no, you are still here. Cool. All right, Jamie, are you on Instagram? And if the answer is yes, do you follow me on Instagram? I got some more questions I'm going to answer here. I just want to make sure. Yes and yes. Okay, Jamie, do me a favor. Send me a DM after the live with your address, and I will get that out next week. And I actually feel bad because I have a few things that I need to send out in the mail. I just have not gone to the post office, but this will force me to go and send everything out. So congratulations, Jamie. Yeah, just send me a DM and we'll get all that situated. Stanley Causey, thank you for your service. Thank you so much. Shuttleworth86, did you get a Roomba for the shop yet? No, I had one. It's the one that we had in the house. The problem is that it doesn't, I have a lip that goes off the front of my garage down where the garage door is, right? It's like this high. So every time it hit the edge, it would fall off and it would just go down the line. And the brand that we have doesn't have indicators that you can place to stop it from going certain places. So unfortunately it didn't work out. And I'm not, the amount of dust that I'm creating in the shop is small enough to where I'm okay with, you know, cleaning it up every once in a while. What time is it? All right, it's 8:04. Let's go ahead and wrap these questions up. Gary Badger, thanks for the answer. When do you plan on filming the comparison? I'm looking at buying some. I mean, honestly, I could probably do it now. My only problem with it is, though, is I really want, like, the purpose of the video is not for me to try to persuade you to buy one or the other. It's to show what the differences are between them so you can make a more informed decision. But before I do that, like, I feel comfortable with the Woodpeckers ones now. I feel very comfortable with the Seneca ones because I've used those for a very long time. And I've just started to play with the TSO ones. And I know personally what my choice would be based on my experience so far. But I want it to be fair, right? Within the next month, I'd say. I'm trying to up my video game right now and start doing a video a week for the rest of the year. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but I'm going to try. Okay, the Trank. Hi, Bent. I'm about to get a track saw. I think I've decided on the TSC 55, but in your opinion, would you get the corded over the cordless? Oh. Now that I've started using the Bluetooth and started running into issues with my cord on my boom arm, constantly getting caught on stuff because I don't have the sleeved hose. To be completely open and honest, I will have one of the TSC 55s in the shop very soon. And I will actually be getting rid of my TS55 to start only using the battery operated one. But to go back to what I was saying, now that I have had the opportunity to see the benefits of the battery, I really do like it. And for me, there's no way I'm going to drain that battery in the middle of a project because I'm not making enough cuts to do that in a day. That's always been my hang up. So that's where having the power, no matter what, has always been so beneficial, in my opinion. But if I didn't have to worry about that, my kicker still is, I'm still hooking up the dust collection, which you don't have to do with the TSC. It'll still collect 90+% of the dust. But I would still hook up my dust collector to it. So I still have a hose, but that hose doesn't get caught up on things as easily, if that makes sense. I will have, like I said, I will have a TSC 55. They are sending me one, and I will do away with that. I don't know, I really like the Bluetooth stuff now that I have it. And so just being able to start it and it kicks that stuff on and then using the Bluetooth on the hose, like it's pretty cool. And the Bluetooth batteries that sync with that stuff, I gotta admit, it's pretty nice. So if you're planning on getting the TSC 55, you've kind of already made up your mind. I would tell you to go with that, especially if you're doing a lot of work away from your shop, or if you are breaking down sheet goods in a different portion of your shop to where you wouldn't have to bring something over for power and all that other stuff. So there are a lot of benefits. My friend Justin from Rustic Grain Designs Tampa, he has one and he swears by it. And he had the TS55 and he got rid of the TS55 just to use the TSC 55. And he has absolutely no regrets. So hopefully that is helpful. Misfit74, do you have any entry-level jointer recommendations? I've looked at a spiral cutter benchtop from Grizzly or Rikon, or save for a longer bed, better, beefier machine. It's not even, I never, some people have countered me with this. I'm not a fan. I would say the longer the beds you can get, the better, because it makes things easy. My saving grace with the A326, which is Hammer's 10-inch joiner planer combo that I currently have until December, my saving grace for this on the last part is the fact that I was able to add the extensions on to give me more support. I would rather have something that has longer beds or the ability to easily put longer beds on it to support and also be able to take off when need be. So I personally know I would never buy a benchtop jointer, so I would not recommend a benchtop joiner. I would always rather have the longer bed machine personally if I had the space. If space is an issue, obviously that's a different story. If you're only doing small things, then there's really no point to get a large one unless you have a feeling that you're going to dive into something a little bit more robust later on. Trank, where do we submit questions? I just answered your question. You just submit them right here. Misfit74, cool. Need another podcast. Been listening to Against the Grain and also Wood Life recently. So the podcast that I listen to, this is irrelevant just in case you haven't heard any of them. Wood Talk, obviously. Shop Sounds, a few good friends of mine. Another wood shop podcast is probably one of my favorites. It's not probably, it is one of my favorites. I just started listening to Making It with Bob Claggett, Jimmy DiResta, and David Picciuto. And I really like that one a lot. It's been on for a very long time. Wood Talk, Wood Shop Life, and then Go Build Something. Those are the ones that I listen to all the time. I just filter through those. John O, hi, I only have enough budget for either router table or spindle molder. What would you recommend? I would get a router table over the other, personally. I'm kind of terrified of spindle molders, shapers, whatever you want to call them. I think depending on what you are building, I feel like the router table is much more versatile. And the bits cost a lot less. But that's just my opinion. Joel Smith, Woodpreneur is a pretty good podcast too. I have not heard of that. I'm going to have to check it out. Joel Smith. Where did I go? Joel Smith, if you're looking for podcast possibilities, Jason, check out the ones on Stitcher. I will have to. Who knows? Come here soon. You guys might hear me more often on a podcast. Live Oak Woodworks. Oh man, we were in the shop building a TV stand and bookcase today. I'll have to watch the recap of this video later. I am very sorry, but it will be on. Probably not tonight, but tomorrow morning it should be uploaded. Joel Smith thinking about getting a Dowel Max jig soon. You know, I have never used dowels. I get asked questions a lot about dowels. I have never used them, ever. Not that I have anything against them. It's just that I ended up buying a Domino very early and I never really found a need. Maybe I should. Maybe I should get some dowels and mess with them a little bit. Joel Smith, love your channel. Got to go finish a farmhouse bench. Well, thank you for stopping by. Congrats, Jamie. Thanks for the answer. That sealed it. Then I'll go with the cordless. Saw you on Festool Live recently too. Awesome. Margaret Sisley. I am thinking about, at some point, I might be actually in the episode, one of the episodes of the Festool Live. I can't wait for that to open back up. That'll be fun. I'm thinking of getting the cordless track saw. There you go. We just talked about that. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I know that I have not been disappointed yet in anything that I've purchased from them. I think the cordless will be much less hassle. Plus, you can get the tool only in the future and pay less since we've got the batteries. Yes, that is a very good point, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So that goes back to the drills, right? People have made a big stink in the past about the Festool drills. They sent me the T18 plus 3. This is their new drill, and then their Impact. I love both of them. I use them constantly. The great thing about this is everybody wanted to complain about the tool prices. Well, they brought the tool prices down. To just buy this without the battery, it's $200. And if you compare that to some of the other really good quality, same thing with the Impact. If you compare that to some of the other really good quality, high quality brands, Impacts, the price is very close. And these batteries work with the other Festool tools. The only exception to that is this one right here, because this takes obviously a completely different battery. And this is the most used drill by far that I use. It's just so handy. But this just has a different battery. But everything else, all the new battery operated line uses the same battery. Anthony Hess, this looks like the last question. So, oh, and this is a good one. Can I glue up a tabletop using only glue, no biscuits, dominoes, dowels, or pocket screws? Absolutely, yes, 100%. Yes. There's this stigma now, and this isn't targeting you by any means. It's just a question. It's actually a comment that I get a lot when I glue something up and I didn't use biscuits or dominoes, mainly dominoes, because everybody knows I'm a Festool guy, right? Why didn't you use dominoes for that? Because I don't need to. It's not needed. I actually talked about this on the podcast. This box here, I had to glue up panels, edge grain to edge grain to create I had to glue up boards to create my panels. I didn't use any dominoes. I used dominoes on the miters, but the only reason I used the dominoes on the miters is because I wanted easy alignment, and it worked perfectly. But no, you absolutely do not need, in my opinion, on a flat surface tabletop. Now, unless we're talking a gigantic flat surface that people are going to be doing gymnastics on or something like that, the strength portion of it is irrelevant. All of those items are simply there to help you align. That is it. It's to bring the boards into alignment. So if your lumber is milled within acceptable standards, right, to the point where you don't need a ton of clamping pressure to close up seams, you don't need to manipulate the board that is not flat because it has not been jointed or planed properly, or you jointed it and planed it and then you let it sit, and 2 days later when you went to go glue it up, it twisted like crazy because moisture was let out of it, right? Those are all examples. However, if you're just making a flat panel, it is absolutely unnecessary to use them. It is very rare at this point that I use dominoes for panels of any sort. Very rare. One, because it'll get expensive, and two, it's not necessary in most cases. So some people might disagree with me on that, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And if I was gonna tell you, if you had a biscuit joiner and a domino, if I was gonna tell you if you really absolutely felt like you had to do something, I would tell you to use biscuits because they're far less expensive and they essentially will do the same thing for that specific application. Now, if you're doing butt joints, a domino would be a much better option than, say, a biscuit, but they will both give you the alignment portion of it, but the domino will be stronger, right? So there's different applications, but think about it. How much strength do you need on a flat surface that already has plenty of glue surface area? That glue is plenty strong enough to hold those boards together. So I love that question. Thanks and see you later. Thank you for stopping by. Good question. Yes, I agree. Doug, you're welcome. B&D Woodworking, what college football team is your favorite? I'm from Arizona, so I am a Sun Devil or Wildcat fan, simply because I am from there, just like I am a Cardinal fan. However, whatever state I am currently in, I will always support those teams. When I was in Georgia, I was a fan of Georgia, the Falcons, but if the Falcons played the Cardinals, which they did, and I went to that game a couple years ago, you better believe I was cheering for the Cardinals, even though they lost. I actually don't really watch a lot of college football. I'm more of an NFL guy, and this year I'm really not any football guy because it's just not the same. Anthony Hess, thank you. I just glued up a 10-foot tabletop. Nice. Rob Simmons, what size tracks do you use? I am looking to get a track saw, but cannot decide what combination of track sizes. Looking at the 75 if it gets back in stock. I have multiple sizes. I have the 1080. I have the 1400, which is the 52 or 55 inch. And then I just recently got the 2700. I was always kind of against getting the long one because I didn't want it to get bent or messed up or whatever. I love it. Having one track that I don't have to assemble and disassemble is fantastic. What I also like to do, I have a couple of extra tracks. I actually have a set for my TS75 saw. Not a set. I have one of the 1400s. I have an LR32 1400. I have a 1400 at my assembly table that is for my TS55. And then I have another one that is for my TS75 because what I did find out is that it's like a 0.5 millimeter difference, but it is slightly different than the TS55. And then I have the same thing with the 1080. I have one for my TS55. I have one for my TS75. And then I have the long one, which I use for my TS55. And then, which is lately it's been my favorite because I've been ripping so many things, sheet goods. And then I have one more additional 1080 that I actually plan on cutting down into two very small ones for very small crosscuts, where kind of like the HKC, and it has that small track. I want to make one of those for myself. And the great thing about it is you can cut those right on your miter saw because they're aluminum. They cut like butter, right? You can just cut right through them. And so I'm going to take one of those and make two smaller sizes. It's just handy to have them. If I had to pick any size, any combination of the two, the 75 would probably be a really good bet, and then one of the 1080s. And then if you had to combine those, it would give you the really long length. I started out for a very long time. I bought two of the 1400s, which was nice, but there was times where I wish I had a shorter one. So if I had to do it all over again, and I only bought two, and if I was doing a lot of stuff with sheet goods, I would get the one you're referring to and the 1080. And then I would get the connectors and connect them if I ever needed to. All right. Al, have a great night. Talk to you soon. Yes, you will be. I'm definitely going to be reaching out based on our conversation earlier. Go Seahawks. Ben, what's up, man? Rob Simmons says, thank you. You are welcome. That is it. That's all the questions I have. Thank you so much for jumping on. I greatly appreciate it. Jamie, I believe, was the winner. Make sure if you're still in here to please send me a message about this so I can get it out to you next week. I don't know. I'm thinking about starting to do something like this. Doesn't mean I'm going to go out and buy something every time I do a live to give to somebody, but there's plenty of times things in my shop that I have that I'm not using, and somebody else out there might be able to use it. So maybe we'll do something like that next time. So, all right, that's all I got. Thank you so much for jumping on, everybody. It was a lot of fun, and I will see you, I don't know about next weekend. I think I'm doing every other week, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be feeling super excited and I want to come out here and do it. But I'm going to go inside, watch a little bit of TV, play with my dogs, drink a couple more beers, and call it a night. So, again, thank you so much. I saw that. Give away your other Festool track saw.